There's a part of your mind that knows things you don't. It watches everything. It remembers every face, every mistake, every little moment you'd rather forget. And while you live your daily life thinking you're in control, it's quietly pulling the strings. The subconscious mind, it's not just a storage unit of old memories. It's a hidden operating system, constantly running in the background, shaping your fears, your desires, your choices, even your relationships. It decides who you trust, what you crave, and why you keep repeating the same patterns, even when they destroy you. And here's the terrifying part. You didn't choose what's stored down there. Traumas you thought you forgot? They're still active, influencing your behavior without permission. Hidden biases, repressed memories, dark fantasies, all lurking beneath your awareness, steering the wheel while you stare out the window thinking you are driving. The truth is, your subconscious isn't a quiet passenger. It's the one whispering to you in dreams, distorting your perception of reality, and hiding pieces of who you really are. And once you start digging, you might not like what you find. The puppet master within, you like to believe you're in charge, right? That the decisions you make every day, what to eat, who to trust, what to believe, all come from conscious, rational thought. But what if I told you most of those decisions were already made before you even realized you were making them? Welcome to the realm of the subconscious, a psychological puppet master hiding just beneath your awareness. It's not some mystical concept or spiritual idea. It's real, and it's backed by science. In 2008, neuroscientists at the Max Planck Institute in Germany conducted a study that shocked the world. Using brain scans, they discovered that your brain makes decisions up to 7 seconds before you become consciously aware of them. Think about that. While you're still debating whether to say yes or no, your subconscious has already chosen. You're just catching up. This hidden system is constantly scanning your environment, drawing from past experiences, emotions, and patterns to make quick judgments. Ever get a bad feeling about someone you just met? That wasn't instinct, that was your subconscious pulling data from your memory files. Maybe they reminded you of someone who hurt you, or maybe they wore a subtle expression that triggered your brain's danger radar. It gets darker. Your subconscious is where all your conditioning lies. The fears you developed as a child. The shame you felt when you failed in public. The praise you got when you behaved a certain way. Over time, these experiences create psychological wiring. And once that wiring is set, your subconscious follows the same pathways again and again, whether they still serve you or not. This is why you might keep choosing emotionally unavailable partners. Why do you freeze up before success? Why do you procrastinate on things you desperately want? It's not because you're lazy or broken. It's because something in your subconscious believes that pattern is safe.
Familiar.
Predictable. You're not making decisions, your programming is. And here's where it gets even creepier. Your subconscious filters all incoming information before your conscious mind even sees it. If something doesn't match your core beliefs, even if it's true, your brain may literally block it out. This is called confirmation bias, and it's one of the strongest forces your subconscious uses to protect the mental story you've been living in. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you've been wired to. And yet, we rarely question it. We go through life believing we're in control, unaware of the scripts running beneath the surface. But now that you know, can you ever trust your own mind the same way again? Buried but not dead. You've probably heard the phrase, just forget it, more times than you can count. But the subconscious doesn't forget. It buries. Every painful memory, every unresolved fear, every time you felt humiliated or rejected, they don't vanish when you move on. They go underground, and that's where they start to rot, quietly infecting your behavior from the shadows. Psychologists call this repression, the act of pushing painful or uncomfortable memories out of conscious awareness. It's your mind's way of protecting you. Think of it like a parent hiding sharp objects from a child. The problem? Those objects are still there, and eventually you trip over them. Repressed memories are tricky. You might not recall the exact moment someone made you feel worthless, but years later, you find yourself avoiding compliments, self-sabotaging, or being overly defensive without knowing why. That's not a coincidence. That's your subconscious running old scripts from wounds you never healed. Take the famous case of Anna O., a patient studied by Freud and Brewer in the late 1800s. She developed partial paralysis, hallucinations, and severe anxiety, seemingly without cause. But through what became known as the talking cure, it was revealed that repressed traumas from her childhood were manifesting as physical symptoms. When she finally confronted those memories, her symptoms began to fade. Now here's the unsettling part. That was the 1800s. Today, we've replaced hysteria with terms like anxiety, panic disorder, psychosomatic illness, but the mechanics are eerily similar. Modern research confirms that trauma, when unprocessed, often resurfaces as unexplained physical or emotional pain. So why doesn't your subconscious just bring these memories up so you can deal with them? Because it doesn't trust you can handle it. Because your mind was built for survival, not clarity. It hides things to keep you functioning. But that protection comes at a cost. Have you ever had a sudden emotional overreaction? Crying during a random commercial, snapping at someone for no clear reason, or feeling dread in a totally safe situation? Those aren't random. They're psychological landmines, triggers, and they only explode when something in the present pokes a wound from the past. What's terrifying is that many of these wounds don't even belong to your conscious memory. Some may stem from early childhood, before you even had the language to describe them. Others might be social traumas, subtle but powerful moments where you learned that being your full self was dangerous. So instead of healing, you adapt. You shrink yourself. You perform. You avoid. And all the while, those buried pieces of you stay alive. Not dead, just dormant. Until something wakes them up. Dreams, symbols, and shadow selves. You dream of being chased, falling from heights, or wandering aimlessly through places you've never seen. And when you wake up, it all dissolves like smoke. But what if those dreams weren't random at all? What if they were messages from the parts of you that you've locked away? Your subconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symbols. And dreams are its native language. Carl Jung believed that dreams are the psyche's attempt to communicate what the conscious mind refuses to acknowledge. They're not just weird mental movies. They're coded letters from your subconscious, filled with symbols, archetypes, and suppressed truths. Ever dreamed of teeth falling out? Psychologists link that to anxiety, loss of control, or fear of powerlessness. What about being trapped? That often reflects emotional suffocation, possibly from a relationship, a job, or even your own expectations. These images don't come from nowhere. They're you speaking to you in a language you've forgotten how to understand. But dreams are just the beginning. There's a darker figure lurking inside all of us. What Jung called the shadow self. It's not evil. It's not demonic. It's just the collection of traits you've rejected or suppressed throughout your life. The anger you weren't allowed to show. The desires you were taught to feel ashamed of. The parts of you that didn't fit the mold, so you hid them. But here's the psychological twist. What we suppress doesn't die. It gets exiled, and it watches. That's why people who always appear calm often have explosive moments of rage. Why those who preach virtue sometimes engage in secret behaviors they condemn in others. The shadow doesn't vanish. It waits for cracks in your control. When you deny parts of yourself, they gain power in the dark. And the most dangerous shadow isn't the one you fear. It's the one you don't know exists. Because when you don't confront it, it operates in silence. It shows up in your relationships, in your self-image, in your decisions, especially the ones that sabotage you. You might say, "But I'm a good person. I don't have a dark side." That's exactly what makes it dangerous. Psychological integration, the process of becoming whole, requires confronting your own inner contradictions. It means recognizing that you can be kind and manipulative, loyal and selfish, strong and broken, all at once. And that's not weakness. That's truth. Until you do that, your dreams will keep sending warnings. Your mind will keep leaking symbols. And your shadow will keep guiding your hand from the dark, while you tell yourself, "I would never do that." But the subconscious doesn't care what you tell yourself. It only reflects who you really are. Cognitive traps and mental minefields. Your brain is a survival machine, efficient, fast, and often dangerously wrong. Every day, your subconscious builds shortcuts to help you make sense of the world. They're called cognitive biases, little mental habits that help you make decisions quickly, but often distort the truth in terrifying ways. Let's start with a classic confirmation bias. You see what you already believe. If you think you're unlovable, your brain will focus on every rejection and ignore the affection. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll spot betrayal everywhere, even when it isn't there. It's not reality you're seeing. It's your expectations reflected back at you. Now imagine millions of people walking around, each trapped in their own subconscious echo chamber, filtering reality to fit the story their mind wants to believe. But it doesn't stop there. Another trap is the negativity bias, your brain's obsession with what's wrong. Evolution wired you to remember threats more vividly than rewards. That's why a single insult haunts you more than 10 compliments. Why one bad day at work makes you question your entire life. It's not you being dramatic. It's your subconscious prioritizing survival, always looking for danger, always scanning for loss. Then there's learned helplessness, one of psychology's darkest findings. In the 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman conducted a disturbing experiment. Dogs were given mild electric shocks with no way to escape. Eventually, even when escape was made possible, they didn't try. They just lay there and accepted the pain. Why? Because their subconscious had learned that nothing they did mattered. The same thing happens to people in abusive relationships, dead-end jobs, or toxic environments. You try to fix it, fail a few times, and then you stop trying. Not because the situation is hopeless, but because your subconscious believes it is. You internalize failure as identity. And here's the real kicker. Once your subconscious decides something is true, it builds your behavior around it. Even if it's a lie. You think you're unworthy, so you push people away. You assume you'll fail, so you don't prepare. You expect betrayal, so you become distant. And when people leave, you say, "See? I knew it." It's not fate. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, powered by a mind trying to protect you from pain by trapping you in patterns that feel safe, even if they destroy you. These cognitive traps aren't just psychological concepts, they're minefields. Walk through life without knowing where they are, and you'll keep stepping on the same ones. The worst part? You'll think it's just bad luck. But once you start noticing them, once you realize how your subconscious sets the stage, you gain something powerful: choice. How to see the unseen. So now you know the truth: your subconscious is powerful, persistent, and not always working in your favor. But here's the most important question. Can you do anything about it? The answer is yes, but it's not easy. Because before you can change what's hidden, you have to see it. And your subconscious is a master of disguise. The first step? Awareness without judgment. You start by noticing your patterns. Noticing when you overreact. When you freeze. When you say yes but want to say no. When you feel small for no reason at all. These aren't random moments. They're signals, little flares from the unconscious. Instead of ignoring them or labeling them as just anxiety, ask yourself, what is this reaction protecting me from? That question alone can crack open a door. Second, observe your emotional triggers. When someone says something and it sets you off, that heat you feel, that instant tension, it's not about the present moment. It's a time machine. Your subconscious just dragged you back to a memory, an unmet need, a wound you haven't looked at. That trigger is a portal to something unresolved. Write it down. Track it. Explore it. Slowly, you start to see the shape of the shadow that's been running the show. Third, dream analysis. No, not crystal balls or dream dictionaries. We're talking patterns. Recurring places, people, emotions. Start keeping a dream journal. Over time, your dreams will start revealing repeating themes. Messages your subconscious is trying to deliver in code. Learning to read that code changes everything. And then there's the shadow work. It's uncomfortable, messy, and essential. You face the parts of yourself you've denied. The envy, the anger, the selfishness, the shame. Not to get rid of them, but to own them. Because what you own, you can work with. What you deny controls you from behind the curtain. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life." and you will call it fate. Finally, you rewire. That's the long game. Mindfulness, therapy, journaling, somatic work, breath work, these aren't just trendy buzzwords. They're tools to update the operating system, to tell your subconscious, hey, we're safe now. We don't need that old survival script anymore. And slowly it listens. You begin to notice space between the trigger and your reaction. You catch yourself in the middle of an old behavior and choose something different. You stop seeing life as happening to you and realize it's responding through you. Here's the twist ending. Your subconscious isn't your enemy. It's a frightened child holding the steering wheel. The more compassion you show it, the more it relaxes. And once that happens, you start driving. But don't expect a final destination. The journey into the subconscious is a loop, one that forces you to keep evolving, keep confronting, and keep asking, what else am I not seeing yet? Because the moment you stop asking is the moment it hides again.